Hey, mamas. Welcome back to another episode of the Mamas Podcast. I'm your host, Madison Walker. And in case you forgot, or maybe you didn't know, Mamas is an acronym that stands for Madison on Motherhood, Marriage, and Stuff. Welcome. Take a deep breath because today's episode is going to be a little heavy. We're talking about the stuff that makes you shut down, blow up, or you bottle it all in. From healthy fighting to unmet needs and conflict without chaos. This episode is for every couple who's ever argued about dishes and somehow ended up talking about their childhood trauma. Plus, I've got a special, powerful guest who's walked through betrayal and turned it into a breakthrough with us today. Hi, Morgan.
Hi.
Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
This
I'm
has
happy
been
to be
fun.
here.
Yes. So Morgan is a life coach. She's a wife. She's a mama. And she's a woman who knows what it means to walk through the hard stuff and to come out stronger. Do you want to share a little bit about yourself and what we're
Absolutely.
diving into today?
Absolutely. So since the podcast is starting with mamas, I am a mama.
Yes.
I have a 3-year-old son, the light of my life, the most psychotic person I've ever met in my life. He's incredible. I love him so much. And then on the marriage front, I am a wife. We have been married almost 2 years. Our anniversary is in a couple of weeks.
Yay.
Actually a couple days, a week.
Oh my gosh.
It's the 10th.
That's exciting.
It's in a week. We've been married for 2 years, but we've been together 10 years. Yes, we were together for 8 years before we got married. And then once we got married, a few months in, we had some bumps in the road, some betrayals, things like that came to light. And that was when we just hit the ground running and just started to make all these breakthroughs and go through all these really hard things, but like healing, coming out of it and just being better for it.
Yeah.
And I absolutely dislike how the healing had to come up and how it all happened. But a year and a half later, I'm so grateful that it did come up because so much has changed in the best ways possible. And it never would have happened had any of that other stuff, stayed hidden.
Yeah. No, for sure. Sometimes it stinks on what comes up and what we have to work through, but
now I love doing this kind of stuff. I love talking about the hard stuff now and like how conflict used to be hard and scary. It doesn't feel that way anymore.
Oh, I love that for you. Yes. I think what we talk about, what we are going to be talking about today with marriage relates so much, even like we were chatting about this a little bit ago, but a lot of what we're going to talk about and dive into, you will hear me probably say, if not today, down the road, it relates also to you and your kids. Like this stuff is so good and it's so real and it's so raw. And the crazy thing is it literally works with any and every single relationship. So your marriage relationship, the relationship with your kids, with your coworkers, like
parents,
literally
siblings,
in-laws, like anyone, because conflict is normal, it's natural, and it's going to happen. And so what we want to do is understand and learn how to do it in a healthy way. And so it betters us. Like it's a part of every relationship. That's a fact. So
yeah.
Awesome. Yes, we are in episode 3, I think, of our marriage series, Modern Marriage, Real Love in Real Life. And if you haven't picked up on it yet, this episode we are diving into healthy fighting, so how conflict can bring you closer. And so before we get too into this, as always, we're gonna go ahead and start with a prayer. And this week we are praying for our marriage. So if you wouldn't mind joining me real fast. Dear Lord, thank you for my spouse. We want a marriage that reflects your kind and commitment, Lord, that kind that lasts forever. Remind us, especially in the hard times, that we made a promise to each other and to you to be committed for a lifetime. Holy Spirit, please work within me so I will be the first to forgive and the first to say I'm sorry. In Jesus' name, amen. And that's from Melanie Chitwood. I am taking prayers off the internet right now, so shout out to her. Before we get too into this episode, we're going to do a quick check-in. A lot happened for me this last week. I turned 25. I went to a Coffee and Connect. Did you hear about that?
I missed that.
Oh my gosh, it was awesome.
I was invited and I wasn't able to go, so I had to miss it.
Yeah,
it was also happy birthday.
Thank you.
25 is a big one,
crazy.
But also not really. I feel like 21 to 30, there's really nothing that goes on except 25.
Except you just feel old.
Yes.
So it was super crazy. It was on my birthday, and so I showed up for myself and for like my business and brought the 2 kids with me. So I was trying to like make connections with other people and other whatever with 2 kids. So that was a lot. And then we also had our first anniversary of marriage. So my husband and I went on a little getaway. And it just definitely brought to light like why it's so important to put your marriage first, especially when you're juggling kids, and the importance of that, because fact of the matter, your kids are going to leave someday. Like that's at least how I'm raising my children, is to like grow up, be adults, and go out into the world, and someday it's just going to be us again. Well, it's never
And there
really
has to
been
be
us.
something there,
Yeah.
you know?
There has to be a good foundation that you can still sit on and be on. Because otherwise you're like, yo, there's a stranger in my house and I don't know them.
Yeah.
And
And
we're
be like, my
stuck.
roommate's really annoying me.
For real. So
Yeah.
that kind of ties into this week of like, how do we keep that foundation strong? So we're going to be diving into that topic and giving some tips on how to work through those challenging moments, like those moments you feel stuck in and that you're having the same argument over and over and over again. So are you ready?
Yes,
Let's
let's
dive
do
in.
it.
So what does healthy fighting actually look like? And if you're like me at first, I'm like, what do you mean healthy fighting? Fighting can be healthy? What?
Yeah. If you're fighting, then that's unhealthy, right?
Right.
No, it's
No,
not true.
no. It's actually a good thing. And I think sometimes for me, like I had this condensation. Is that the word? No. I don't know.
Condensation is like water.
Water. That's not the word. It'll come to me.
Like a concept or like understanding,
I don't know.
like
Anyway.
your perception of it.
Yeah. Is there a word that starts with a C like that?
My
Condensation. I don't know. Anyway, I had this idea that if you fought or like people saw you fighting in your relationship, that means it was bad. And I didn't want people to see us fighting or know that we had an argument or disagreement, because I'm like, it's not that bad. Like it just happens. Doesn't mean we're a bad couple.
They're gonna be like, oh well, Madison and her husband are fighting. They're gonna break up. Like something like
or
that.
that I'm all these horrible things that I've been called and labeled. So it definitely has been in my head, and that has been a shift. But now that I really understand a lot of this, I'm like, no, if you're not fighting, I think that's when you should be concerned.
Yes, absolutely. I used to think that was a flex in my relationship. It was like, we never fight, but it was for other reasons. There was plenty to fight about.
Sure. Yeah, we're gonna get into
we
that
just
just
weren't.
a little bit, aren't we? That's awesome. That's so perfect. So let's go over a couple examples of what healthy fighting, or like, so what healthy fighting isn't, but these are ways that conflict might be coming up in your marriage. Scorekeeping. So this would be like, I did the dishes 3 times this week and you didn't even blah, 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 blah.
Do them once or pick up after the dog.
Right. So keeping that score, and this turns your relationship into a competition, not a partnership.
Yeah. And I mean, we definitely want fairness in a sense. So it's not, I'm the only one who does this. You don't help me with this. But there are also going to be times where it has to be like a 70-30 split. You know, you mentioned your husband works a lot of overtime. You know, he comes home tired and you're absolutely tired too. But he might have a day where he's like, babe, I'm at 10%.
Right.
I need you to carry my 90. But then in a few days, you might be like peak period, hating your life, feeling terrible. You spent all night up with your boy, and then you're like, babe, I'm 10% today. I need you to be 90. Like, it's just having that kind of fairness of,
absolutely.
Yeah, you did the dishes 3 times, but I've also been mowing the lawn for 2 hours. So it's like kind of like thinking that way too. But you don't want to keep score. You don't want it to be a competition. We're not tallying here.
No, not tallying, which can definitely be hard sometimes, especially I feel like if you're not able to have those conversations and your needs are not being met in that sense. I think it's really easy to mentally be like, I'm guilty of it. Like, this is when I will start to snowball, and then I'm like, well, I did this and I did this and I do this, and then it just builds up this resentment, and it really then will come to surface, and I'm like, grr.
Resentment is such a relationship killer. That's the worst part.
Yeah, but this, like, that is definitely something that I've noticed in myself, and is like, I will start, that's when I snowball. So yeah, you know, try not to do that, or that's not necessarily healthy. Name calling and passive aggressiveness. So saying things like, you're so lazy, you're so selfish, or then being like, oh no, nothing's wrong, I'm totally fine, as you slam the door and walk away.
Yes, like, clearly you're fine. I can tell you're fine. Yes.
So this creates confusion and resentment instead of clarity.
Yes, especially if your partner goes, are you upset? And you go, no, I'm fine. But like, okay, you don't seem fine. And then it's like, now what do I do? Yeah, I'm guilty. Guilty as charged. I don't know how many times my husband was like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm fine.
I'm fine.
And it's like, okay, no, you're not. Like,
clearly. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely some confusion there. And this can shift the focus from their behavior to identity and cause like lasting damage. So
Yeah. There's one thing of like being lazy versus like you are lazy.
mhm.
And that can be like an assault on your character kind of
Yeah.
thing of like, I'm having a crazy moment for sure, but I'm not a crazy person.
Right. It's
Yeah.
just like a hard moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think too the name calling,
That's so hard. That's so like, it's hard to take some of that stuff back.
mm,
Like, if you're out here like calling your spouse like the B word, like
mhm,
that's going to be in the back of that person's mind
always.
now.
Yeah.
They're going to hear that. And it's like, it's hard to take that back.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Even if it's a joking matter. And I
Yeah.
think, oh, I didn't mean it. I was just joking or whatever. Like, I don't think for me personally, that's kind of like a non negotiable. Like, that's a boundary of like, I don't
Mhm.
care if you're joking or not. I don't
Yeah.
ever want to be called something
Yeah.
from the person that I love and care about the most.
Yeah. And everyone's
Um,
perception is different. Like, yeah, he may have meant it as a joke, but like the way you internalized it was
right.
not a joke and it hurt you.
Hurts. Yeah.
Whether or not he meant it to, it still hurt you. You
Yep.
know? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have an ongoing, it's not really a joke. I don't know. Like my husband or people will say things and they're like, well, it's a joke. I'm like, jokes are supposed to be funny.
Yes.
That I
I'm
didn't
not
laugh.
laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I'm
got
not laughing.
hurt.
Are you laughing? No, no one's laughing.
Yeah.
Okay. Stand
Usually
up
he'll
comedy
be
is not going to
laughing.
be your thing. Okay. Got it.
Not a specialty. Oh yeah. Another example would be like stonewalling or the silent treatment. So completely shutting down, walking away without any intention of returning. So silence isn't peace, it's avoidance.
Yes. That's that part with the like, oh, we never fight. I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm sure you have plenty to fight about. You're
Yeah.
just not talking about it.
it.
You're not addressing it. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's nice. You're not having arguments. You're not yelling and screaming. But the extreme opposite of not saying anything at all is just as bad.
Yeah.
And that's where my marriage was. That was our problem. We're both avoidant people.
Mhm.
So it was like we would both
Just
separate and be
yeah.
silent and just not talk about it. And then we'd have like a few awkward days of like silence, of like awkwardness.
Mm.
And then we would just be like, are we good now?
Are we
And it's like
good?
3 days have gone by.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're fine, you know? But it's like in those 3 days, I hated you.
Mhm.
And it's like that's
Well,
just as bad as if I was sitting here like yelling and
Yeah.
doing this. It's the same.
And nothing got, quote unquote fixed, but like nothing
Right.
got
There's
resolved.
no repair.
Yeah,
there was no
nothing.
repair.
Okay, this was not our best. Like, how can we prevent this from happening again? Or how can we support each other in that? There's none of that. It was
Yeah.
just like shoving it under the rug.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That rug was huge.
Yeah, very
mile
full.
high rug. Mile high rug.
That's funny. Yeah, I think that's something too. I think we'll talk about it a little bit, but how you were raised and what you know. Some people literally don't even know how to have these conversations.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
really uncomfortable or
No
you
one's
can't.
shown them. They've
Yeah.
never practiced. They've never tried it.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
like feeling safe and that sense of safety or I don't
Mhm.
know how to handle this is just like walking away
Yeah.
and shutting down.
And I feel like you said that and it kind of like self-confidence almost too,
Mhm.
that like a self-trust in a way that it's like, okay, I have something hard that I want to bring up. I don't know how they're
Mhm.
going to react, but like I know that I'm going to show up in this way
Right.
and I'm going to, do what I can and say
Mhm.
what I
How you
mean
feel.
and say how I feel, and I have the confidence to come out and say that, and then
Yeah.
having the trust of like in yourself of like, okay, however they react, I can handle it.
Mhm.
I'll be okay.
Yeah, or even that sense of safety because like if
Mhm.
you're going to be open and honest about voicing your need or something hurt me and you could
Mhm.
be nervous about how your spouse is going to take it,
Mhm.
like I don't want you to blow up, I don't want you
Yeah.
to be mad at me or take it the wrong way, but then
Yeah.
trusting like I'm coming to you with something that is painful or hurt me and trusting that like they're going to be open and receptive and like work with you and not take it as an
Mhm.
attack and be triggered because then
Mhm.
that can escalate
Right.
into a fight. So
Yes. Yes.
yeah, so much good stuff. Yeah, so then also another thing that's not super healthy, but you might be noticing in your marriage is bringing up every past fight. I
Mhm.
think this is one that maybe isn't really talked about enough, but um, healthy conflict doesn't carry emotional receipts. And so a part of learning healthy conversation, healthy conflict is you repair and you let it go. Like forgiveness, you forgive, you let it go. Like not that it didn't happen and that's not valid, but the fact of like we're
Mhm.
moving forward and this isn't going to be held against you.
Yeah. And also, I think we're going to touch on it a little later too, but that always, never,
Mm.
I try so hard to frame everything I say without using those words,
Yes.
because that kind of brings the past into the present.
Mhm.
And it's like the issue we're having this conflict on right now may have happened multiple times before, but we're talking about the one that just happened 5 minutes ago, not the one that happened 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And then bringing in that always and never, it's like, literally, have they literally never ever asked you if you're doing okay? Not ever. I'm sure they
Mhm.
have at least once. So it's like,
Yes.
it just, the defenses that come with that always, never verbiage.
Mhm.
I highly recommend taking that out completely.
Never use it.
Never use never
Never use it.
or
Yeah.
always.
Never or always. Those are definitely two big words. Like, if you can
Yes.
take out of your vocabulary, especially when it comes to a
Yeah.
conflict, because
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely a huge defense. Like,
Yeah.
that's not valid.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, I feel it happens often, or I
Mhm.
feel like this has happened before, but like,
mhm.
instead of being like,
You
you always do
always.
this,
Yeah.
because literally always, every single time, maybe
Yeah.
not,
No, it's not a true statement.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, I think we are diving into that a little bit
Yeah.
more. But
I kind of brought that up
it's all
already, but
good. It's so good stuff. There's like so much when we were mapping out what to talk about today and what we all want to do. We're like, shoot, this might be a long episode.
we're gonna buckle in, guys. This
Yeah.
is a 4-hour long
It's just
episode.
no,
I'm just
my gosh, we
kidding.
could not. It is just it's so good, and a huge reason why this podcast even exists is because, like Morgan, I think you kind of hit on this. Like, you learned it, and now you're like, I have to tell everybody. Like,
Yeah,
everybody
because
needs
so
to
many
know.
people don't know.
No.
So many people were not shown
Mm-mm.
growing up how to regulate themselves and communicate in a like productive way.
Yep.
You know, like, yeah, I'm able to stand up for myself and speak up for myself, but there's a nice, healthy, productive way to do that versus
Mhm.
being like, you always do this,
Yeah.
I'm doing this, blah blah blah. Like, yes, it is you communicating, but it's so unhealthy.
Yeah.
And it's
Very
like,
damaging, especially
yeah,
like in
yeah,
relationships and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, and then our kids sit there and they watch it, and then
they do it.
that's
Yeah,
how they're going to communicate with their future person or
yeah.
with anyone, and it's crazy to think about. So
Yes.
to quickly go through the rest of these, threatening
Mhm.
the relationship, so maybe we should just break up then.
Mm.
Yeah, let's not threaten the relationship, okay? Like, the
Mhm.
D word is non-existent in my marriage. So
Oh, divorce.
yep,
Okay.
the
I
D
was like,
word.
what's the D
What's
word?
the D word?
It's divorce. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
not using your connection as leverage, because that really destroys the sense of safety, and
Mhm.
like, that sense of safety is so
Yeah.
vital
To
in
know
your
that, like, if
marriage.
I'm going to bring up this thing,
Mhm.
he's not going to explode and say, I'm breaking up with you. That's so imperative because he may get flooded and be angry or whatever, but to know that, like, you're not risking your entire relationship by bringing up this one
Mhm.
conflict,
Yeah.
you have to know that. Like,
Sense
you
of
have to know
safety.
it's not, yeah.
Yeah.
You have to know that everything's not going to fall apart from this one conversation.
That sense of safety is so huge. Like,
Mhm.
our kids need it, but then also, like, just like, we're all human, so we all need that sense of safety. But
Mhm.
yeah, it blows my mind when you sit here and you think about it. Like, yeah, like, I need to feel safe with
Mhm.
my spouse. I need to feel that safety.
Yeah.
Trying to win. So I'm right, you're wrong. End of story. The goal of conflict is not victory, it's understanding.
There is a therapist that I follow. I love him. I love everything. I love his books. Everything. Everything he does is perfect. His name's Terry Real. And his saying that I always keep in my head is, who's wrong, who's right, who cares? Because if one of you is losing, you're both losing.
Mm,
If one of you is winning, you're both losing.
yeah.
You have to get to a place where you're both winning, which is that understanding part.
Mm,
But again, it's like, who's wrong, who's right, who cares? In a
Right.
marriage, it does not matter who's right. It does not matter who's wrong.
That's
That's
so
not
good.
the goal.
Yeah, being that team.
Yeah.
That makes me think of, like, as we've navigated co-parenting and just even a family and making decisions as a couple, there's been
Mhm.
multiple times that it's like, okay, we're making this decision together,
Mhm.
and whether this goes really well or it goes really bad, it's not your fault. It's not my
Mhm.
fault. Like, we made this together. It's our fault, and we're
Yeah.
going to move forward from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, super good.
Exactly.
Okay, Morgan, so I'm curious, like, how did conflict show up in your marriage before, and
Mhm.
like, what has shifted after you began your healing journey?
Yeah. So I kind of mentioned it a little
Yeah.
earlier. I kind of sped it up there, but conflict was like non-existent in my marriage because we were so avoidant. We would have an issue. We might have a tense moment where one of us snaps at the other, and then we would both just shut down,
Mm,
go our separate ways. And it built so much resentment up. There was
mm,
so much bottling up to when my problem was is I never had the vocabulary, the skills to go to my husband. I was going to like my friends and
mm.
saying, "Oh my God, he's doing this, he's blah blah blah."
Yeah.
And then my friends are like, "Why are you with him?" And I'm like, "Because I
Yeah.
love him," you know. And so it's like
Right.
it was creating so many issues outside of my marriage and bringing other people into my marriage simply by just like avoiding it with my husband. And then the
Mhm.
resentment, like I said, resentment is a relationship killer.
Oh, it
If you
is.
have resentment, your relationship is going to be in so much pain a
Mm-hmm.
lot
Yeah.
and in conflict a lot. And so it was on this healing journey that I realized how detrimental the silence and the stonewalling was and the avoidance was, like, and just learning how to not do that and
Mm-hmm.
how to
Tough.
speak up for myself essentially,
Yeah.
but also in a healthy way.
Right, right. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, like you mentioned that your husband did that too. So,
Hmm.
like,
It was really hard.
did you have to kind of teach him while you were teaching, or was it more
Yeah.
of like a lead by an example and then like
Um,
having to kind of coach him and encourage him to do the same thing?
Kind of all of that.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff, especially when it came to the communication and getting through conflict, like all of this stuff we're talking about today, like when I was going through my journey, this podcast episode, I would have sent it to him and been like, I really
Mm,
need you to listen to
I
this.
see. Yeah.
I find this with myself. I see it with you, and I would love for you to listen to this. Like, that's what I was doing. I was sending him things that I was coming across, and I'd be like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
that fits me. Well, we have
Mm-hmm.
very similar styles in that avoidance, you know? And so I would send it to him and be like, hey, I see this in you too. I think you would really benefit from listening to this.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like in the moment of being like, I would be saying something, saying it in the best way that I could think possible, and I could just see him shutting down. I could just see
Yeah.
him like leaving his brain. His body is here, his brain is not, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it would just be like, hey, you know, what are you thinking? How are you feeling right now? Like, I can tell I'm losing you here. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's going on for you? And just kind of bringing him back in and being like, okay, stay with me here. It's not like I'm
Yeah.
losing him because he's bored. I'm losing
Right.
him because he's shutting down,
Yep.
you know? And
It's
it was like
uncomfy.
trying to keep him online and not
Mm-hmm.
offline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that reminds me, that's so good because I relate to that a lot. Like when I definitely was learning a lot of this and starting to implement it even more in our relationship, exact same thing. And I
Hmm.
could just like at times it was like, okay, I'm frustrated or trying to voice this, and I felt like
Hmm.
I had to put it on pause and put it in the back so then I
Hmm.
could be present and help him and like
Hmm.
make sure it's a safe space too,
Yeah.
and like be
Yeah.
like, okay, like how are you feeling? What
Yeah.
is going for you? But it was like
And
learning it myself and then
mm,
helping coach and teach him in the process
yeah.
too.
I think something else that was really helpful for me too was learning my husband's response. Like, I knew he was
Mm.
avoidant and I knew he was shutting down, but it was like I kind of had to step back and go, okay, what about what I'm saying, how I'm saying it, and the
Mm-hmm.
manner I'm saying it is kind of contributing to him shutting down?
Sure.
Is it my tone of voice? Am I coming
Yeah.
off aggressive? Am I
Yeah.
using words that are harsh to him,
Mhm.
but maybe not to me? So it was kind
Yeah.
of like stepping back and like looking and listening to myself and going, okay, how am I showing up in this instance that's like already just tampering him
Yeah.
down, you
No, that's
know,
so
to where
good.
he doesn't feel safe enough essentially
Yeah.
to stand up with me.
Right.
Because, like, here I am, I'm standing up, I feel safe, I'm secure. But something about the environment is not helping him
Mm-hmm.
to come there too. So then it was like me also being like, hey, you are safe and secure here.
Right.
You do have a voice. If something I'm saying is not how you feel, stand up to me, you
Right. You
know?
can tell me.
Yeah.
That was so good. Yeah.
Hmm.
I feel like that is so much relatable to how my husband and I, what we went through and how that looked for us too. And on top of that, like learning how to more about ourselves and like our styles or whatever. But it came up for us, and my husband would be like, when you cuss, like I shut down. And for me, I would really only cuss when I was really upset because I feel like that's when people took me seriously. But then, like, me cussing like immediately shut him down. And so just like learning that about each other and being like, okay, like I apologize. That's not,
Yeah.
let me be more mindful of my words so that
Yeah.
this is like we're getting somewhere
Yeah.
together.
Hmm. Hmm.
So good. So
Hmm.
good. Okay, so that was a lot. That was heavy. If any of this you're like, "Oh my gosh, we do that. That's me." It's okay. Okay, there's that's why we're here, right?
We're
Like,
bringing awareness to it. You
yeah,
can't change something if you are not aware of it.
absolutely.
And it's going to take multiple instances to
Yes.
rein in that awareness, to really see it, you know, like,
Yep.
so the next time you have after you watch this, if you have a conflict and it goes the same exact way, just bring that awareness. That's
Mhm.
that first step,
Yeah, and you
you
can
know?
always like go back to it. Like you can sit down with your person and be like, "Yo, I'm
Yeah.
trying. Like, how can we do this better?" And like take notes. Take notes now because now we're gonna be going over some helpful tools that you can
Yeah.
start to use in your next hard conversation. That should really help support you and your spouse or anyone that you're
Mhm.
having a conflict with. So it can be a little healthier and you guys can. I call it nonviolent communication, but there's lots of different words and ways that you can call it. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, cool. My baby is waking up from a nap, but I think we're gonna see how long we can go. Okay, so the first one is the pause button. So what it is basically it's just a mutual agreement to pause when emotions are high, and you guys are both agreeing that when you're feeling more regulated, you're gonna come back to this. And
Yes.
so I think there's a lot of different verbiage for this, but basically when you feel triggered, you feel overwhelmed, you feel overstimulated. We've talked about this a lot in other episodes, that your nervous system is activated, so our whole brain's not working. This is the time for sure when you're feeling your way like come up that thermostat to just pause and be like, yo,
Mhm.
I'm feeling really triggered. I'm gonna say things I don't mean. We're gonna go back to
Mhm.
old habits because our brain is not fully working.
Yeah.
Like, can we just take a pause?
Mhm.
And this is 100% something that we had to start implementing in our marriage or even early on relationship, as like I just need to process this
Mhm.
and like really process it when I'm not feeling triggered and I'm not walking away. I'm gonna come back for this. I just need a second. But
Yeah.
like having to voice, I'm not walking away. Like I'm
Mhm.
still
Yeah.
gonna come
Yeah.
back, but
There
I just need a second.
there is so much power in pausing.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to just go, okay, I'm flooded. I've just felt this like whoosh,
Yep.
and now I'm another person
Yep.
essentially. And it's going, okay, hang on, hang on, time out,
Yep.
pause, please. Like, one thing I will say about pausing is you have to be so intentional about being, I'm going to take 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I'll come back in 20 minutes.
I'll come back.
If 20 minutes go by and you're like, I'm not quite there yet,
Mm-hmm.
communicate that. Go,
Yep.
hey, I need another 20
Yep.
minutes and then I will come back to you. And it's always making sure that you come back. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
are like, I need to step away and pause and then you never come back, like it just negates the whole
Right.
situation.
Yep.
But there is also this quote I wanted to share real quick. It's by Viktor Frankl, and it's between stimulus and response, there's a space. And
Mm-hmm.
in that space is your freedom to choose how you respond.
That's so
And then that
good.
is that pause because the stimulus hits, okay, and you feel
Mm-hmm.
that whoosh. Now you're taking this pause and you're going to chill and you're processing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when you're able to take the moment to choose your response to then come back and have the rest of your conversation.
Yes. And this just literally blows my mind because this relates so much to parenting.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of
Yes.
talk about like a doorway, like you have that pause to be like, okay, like I'm either gonna come in here and handle this differently, or like I'm not in a space
Yeah.
to come in here and handle it differently. So I'm gonna take a couple minutes back
Yes.
and
Well, and I do
come
that with
again.
my son. He's 3. He is in the peak of his
Yes.
three-nager tantrums, and
Yes.
he riles me up so much.
Mm-hmm.
He's riled up, I'm riled up, and I'm literally like, bub, we're taking a minute.
Yep.
We don't say timeout. We don't say anything like that. We like literally, I just say we both need a minute.
Yep.
And I'm like, you go lay in your bed, take a minute. I'm gonna go lay in my bed and take a minute.
Right. We just need
I
some space.
straight up show him like, hey, mommy's struggling too.
Yep.
Okay, I am the adult, but I'm struggling here.
Yep.
And you're struggling, I'm struggling. So let's just take a minute. Like you
Let's
take a
just
pause, I'll take a pause.
yes.
And then I just listen for his door to open and I'm like, okay, we're good.
ready.
He's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's try again.
Mhm.
Yes, so good. We all need it and it's so great. Like I think starting to be emotionally aware and like your body typically gives you cues on when you're
Mhm.
starting to feel this, but
Mhm.
and we talked about it a ton in previous episodes and it's going to be in even more, I guarantee it, because it's so good and it's so important.
Mhm.
But taking that pause 100%.
Mhm.
um so Morgan, why do you think, like when do you know that it's time to press pause on a conversation, and then how do you circle back in a way that builds trust?
Yeah. Again, me skipping ahead.
Yeah,
I
it's all
kind of
good.
already
That's
touched on
okay.
that. My bad, but it's that whoosh,
That
that
whoosh.
like feeling. That's
Mm-hmm.
one of the things of bringing awareness is kind of understanding the physical feeling behind it too,
Yes.
because like you can escalate in your head, you can start going, saying all these things and whatever it might be in your
Mm.
head. But then your body, like for me, I get sweaty. My
Yeah.
heart starts pounding.
Yeah.
I feel like almost like lightheaded because I'm like a
Mm-hmm.
literal whoosh, and it's understanding the physical feelings that happen in your body and go, okay, yep, I'm
Yep,
flooded. I'm
I'm
flooded
there.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a physical sensation just as much as it's like a mental state.
100%.
And it's feeling that like, okay, I'm having a moment, I'm flooded. Here's the whoosh.
Yep.
Now I need a pause. And it's just being so intentional about saying, I need a pause. This
Mm-hmm.
is how much time I'm going to take. And then
Mm-hmm.
coming back and saying, I need more time, or saying, like, I'm good now. Let's have this conversation.
Yes. I love that you say the whoosh because I feel like that's how it comes over me too.
It
It's like
really
a
is like a
whoosh.
whoosh.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
for sure. And
The
I think,
dam broke and
yep, whoop,
we're
there it
flooded.
is.
Yeah.
Um,
There it is.
something to keep in mind. We're not gonna like get into it too much, but and it might be jumping ahead. I don't even know. But when you take that pause and you like go from that 20 minutes, learn about how to calm your nervous system because that's what's activated. And so
Mhm.
if you're not doing anything proactive to help calm yourself back down, you could just be sitting there and literally it's just,
Hyping yourself
yeah,
up.
it's just
Yeah.
building and building.
Escalating.
You're just adding air to the flame, you know?
Mhm.
So like when you take that pause, it's a matter of like, I'm going to take a pause and be proactive on doing things that is going to calm my nervous system back down so
Mhm.
that I can come to a green state where you're regulated, you're calm, and you can have a full
Mhm.
conversation. Food for thought, because we're not being like, hey, they told me to walk away and I walked away and I'm just even more pissed, like I'm
Yeah.
never gonna find
Yeah.
this calm.
There are like little tools, and I think we do
I think we get into it a little
get
bit,
into it a
yeah.
little later about like what you can do to kind of help yourself
Hmm.
come back down
Yeah.
from it.
So little things that you can do, and it's a trial and error, because some things that work
Mhm.
for people don't work for others. So
Yes, you have to find what works for you.
yes.
Mhm.
So another tool is just choosing repair over winning. So basically you're shifting your goal from being right to getting right with each other.
Mhm.
Something that I think my grandparents told us forever ago, but it's like, it's not you and me against each other, it's you and me against this problem. So we're
Mhm.
being a team against what's going on right now. So it's
Mhm.
not, we kind of hit on this, it's not about being right, but about being a team and working through it together, so
Yeah.
ultimately we can come out stronger
Yeah.
and be better.
Yeah, like when your kid is screaming and having
Yeah.
a full tantrum, but
Yeah.
you and your husband are like, well, if you didn't do that, he wouldn't be
Mhm.
having this moment. It's like, it's not really about that. It's more of a like, okay, how are you and I going to come together
Right.
to help
To
him
help
through this
them.
moment and
Yeah.
to like get through this? Because
Absolutely.
me fighting you, who's fighting him, like now we're all just fighting. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's me and you. We're going to come together. We're
Yep.
focused right here, you know?
We can
And
do
then
this.
against that.
Yeah. That example is a very, I can already like tell it's like a very high stress situation. Like when the kid's throwing a fit and then like
Oh
everyone's
my God.
triggered. You're
Yes.
like, what do we even
Yes.
do?
Now we're all screaming. It's great.
Right. Um, yeah. And so I feel like I missed something in here. I don't even know. But the next kind of part, like we did hit on like the using I feel instead of you always. So
Mhm.
just owning your experience without placing the blame. So instead of
Mhm.
like, you never listen to me, you can say things like, I feel ignored when I'm talking and I don't feel heard.
Mhm.
So just kind of being mindful of what that wordage and verbiage
Yeah.
looks like.
Yeah. You don't want to be like, you made me feel this way, or like,
Hmm.
you did this. Like, it's just going like, when this happened, I felt
Hmm.
this way, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Because that's true. You can't speak on what they might be feeling and what they were doing. You can only speak on yourself, really.
100%. Yeah. And like, I think something that sometimes gets bypassed is my feelings are valid and my experience is like true for me and valid, but just as much as your partner's, like
Yeah.
their feelings and their experience is just as much valid. And you may
Mhm.
not always see eye to eye on it.
Mhm.
Or maybe like, my intention wasn't to come across like that, but I can see how what I said and what I did felt that way.
Yeah. Right. Right.
But using like I feel instead of you always, it works because it lowers that defense and opens a
Mhm.
door for connection, which is what we're looking for here. We're looking for that team.
Mhm. Mhm.
This one I love so much, but check in before having a hard conversation. So
Mhm.
basically, you're asking permission, like, hey, are you in a good space to have this
Yeah.
conversation? Like,
Yeah.
hey, I want to talk to you about this. Like, when would be a good time for you?
Mhm.
And it really creates safety and shows respect, but it's so big because, like, if you just had an awful day and you
Mhm.
juggled, you're super stressed out and work was crazy and then the kids have been a handful, like the last thing you want to do is walk into the door and then get nailed with this conversation that you
Yeah.
don't even know is coming.
Yeah.
So it can
Mhm.
already like make defenses go up and
Yeah.
be super overwhelming.
Yes, absolutely. And like, um, I think we did skip a part about like the
Yes, I
curiosity.
was just gonna say it's be a great time to talk about that.
Yeah, because it is like you want to have the permission to have that conversation, and then when you do, you want to have like curiosity with it
Hmm.
because I feel like the curiosity goes with all of the things that we
Yes,
just kind of talked about.
100%.
I think that having curiosity in any situation is like perfect because
It's
it's
huge.
you're here to understand, you're listening to understand, you're not listening to respond, and
Mm.
have curiosity because you want to understand. Again, with the perception, like I
Mm-hmm.
perceived it this way, I don't understand how you perceived it this way. Like, how did that feel for you? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what was it that I said that took you here, you know? So it's like that curiosity has been a game changer because
Mm.
there's so much that I just didn't understand because it just isn't my brain. His
Absolutely.
My husband's brain is different than mine, and it's like
Yeah.
I don't understand that, so I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to be curious
Yes.
instead of being like you're wrong because the way I'm doing it is right, that you're doing
Mm-hmm.
it wrong. That's not how it is. It's like I'm curious on that because I don't understand. Can you like explain that to me?
Yes. I had to start using things like this is an honest question, and I would say that because I would get curious. I'm like, I'm just not understanding this. But I didn't want my question to come across as being like smart assy or like
Right.
make you like, I'm
Right.
not meaning this in a bad way. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to like, this isn't a downgrade. It's just,
Mhm.
I'm really curious. And so this is an honest question.
Yeah.
Can you tell me this or can you
Yeah.
explain this better? And that
Yeah.
helped set the tone so he didn't automatically feel defensive.
Mhm.
But then, yeah, you said something that I don't think is talked about enough. Listen to understand,
Mhm.
not to respond.
Yeah.
We are such a society that I think we listen to respond
Oh, yeah.
instead of getting curious
Yeah.
and
Because we
saying,
want to
yeah, I
defend
hear you.
ourselves,
Mhm.
right? Especially if someone's coming with us and being like, "Hey, this happened and it made me feel this way," and you're like, "I didn't make you. I couldn't. I
Right.
could not have made you feel that way. I am a good person. I would
Right.
never make you feel
Mhm.
like bad about yourself like that." But it's like that's not the point. It's
Mhm.
something that happened, something you said did make me feel this way, and it's
Mhm.
oh, I didn't realize that. I'm so
Mhm.
sorry. That was not my intent to make you feel
Right.
that way.
That's so good.
But it's very much a listen to respond when really we're here to listen to understand.
Mhm.
And especially when you're having conversations about like a conflict and you're coming back and you're trying to have repair, there is a listening role and a speaking role.
Mhm.
If your husband is coming to you and saying, "Hey, this happened the other night and I'm upset about it, I want to talk about it," right there you have established you are listening and he is speaking, and you need to
Mhm.
let him speak, and you need to listen and take in what he's saying and just try to come to understanding, have curiosity. So then when it's your turn to speak, it's, he is now listening and it's flipped and you're able to have a conversation back and forth instead of it being a fight.
100%. And I think something that's like not in our whatever, but like when someone's talking, let them talk. Don't interrupt them.
Yeah.
Like give them the space and the floor to get out their feelings. Because if you interrupt and then you like dominate over them, they're not gonna feel safe.
They're
They're not
probably
gonna
going to shut
wanna.
down.
Yeah. All these. There's so much. It's ridiculous. So a couple more body language awareness. So just be mindful. Your tone, your eye contact, your posture. I am so guilty of this. Like use a calm tone, like have an open posture, and even like sitting down and talking eye to eye can be huge
Yeah.
because people read into that.
Mm-hmm.
And even some things like, hey, like your arms being crossed and you're standing there all mad, like is not helping the vibe. But I'm like,
Yeah.
fine, sorry, let me put my arms
Yes.
down.
I am a firm believer in like tone trumps content.
Mm.
Like whatever you're saying does not matter to me if you're using a mean, sassy tone.
Oh, 100%.
Or if there's like the undertone of like sarcasm.
Yep.
Like you can say, "Oh, yeah, I love you."
You're
Or
like,
you can say, "I love you." Like there's a difference.
Such a
in it,
difference.
and it's like, "Yeah, I love you," whatever. Or it's like intentional, being like, "I do love you."
Yep.
But right now we're fighting.
Yep. I might not like you right now, but I love you.
Yes.
That's so big. I think too, like that reminds me of texts because
Yes, I hate fighting over text.
yeah,
I
you
refuse.
can't.
I
You can't
refuse.
read tone, and you're like, that's
Mhm.
not how I meant it at
Yeah.
all. But obviously, when you
Which
read, you hear it however you want.
Yeah, and in today's world, that's probably a good point to hit on is like, I highly suggest if you are not around your partner and you guys are arguing over text, pause.
Mm-hmm.
Pause.
Be like,
Pause
hey,
for
can we
hours.
come
Pause
back
till
to
the end of the
this?
day.
Yeah.
Pause. Because fighting over text, tone, again, like
Yeah,
you
it's
can't
not.
tell the tone.
No.
And unless you're sending each other voice notes, which I also don't recommend, there's no way to tell the tone. And it's
Yep.
going, okay, hey, we're having a moment. I'm not feeling great. I do not want to do this over text.
Mm-hmm.
You'll misconstrue something I'm saying. I'll misconstrue something you're saying.
Right.
It's not going to go well. Let's take
Right.
a pause. We'll come back
Yep.
after dinner or whatever.
Yep. Set a time or be like, will this work? And make it a priority that you guys come back to it.
Yeah.
And chances are by that point,
you'll have calmed down.
you're going to have so much time to process it and really
Mhm.
realize like, hey, like I'm actually mad. I'm feeling hurt because this happened. And the conversation's just going to be way better. Whereas if it was over text, probably would have blown up.
Yes, it'd be a problem.
Yeah. And reminding your same team, like you were framing the problem as something that you're tackling together. So like it feels like we're fighting each other, but I want us to fight the problem together. I kind of hit on this earlier. Like it's you and me against the problem, not us against each other. And oh gosh, yeah, you said that. It's not you versus me, it's us and everything else.
Yeah.
It's huge. Yeah, it's a good mindset to have. And even like if you're in the midst of a huge argument with your spouse and you can like have that pause to take a deep breath and just say it to them, it can be such a reassuring like it can just literally escalate everything so big because you're like, hey, like you're right, it's not the end of the world, we're gonna be okay.
We're gonna work together, not against each other, because like the world is hard enough as it is. I don't need to be fighting you and the world at the same time.
For sure. Okay, so then another little tip. Do you have enough tips yet? You have quite a few.
You're at least 3 pages into your notes.
Yeah.
At least.
You can use repair statements. So saying things like, I love you and I want to figure this out together. Can we start over?
Can always start over.
You can always start over. Be like, okay, that did
Mhm.
not go well. Let's try this again.
Yeah.
And like I don't want to keep hurting each other, so let's find a better way.
Yes.
This, I mean, we do this all the time. I feel like sometimes it's just a matter of catching ourselves and being like, hey, like that came out wrong. I
Mhm.
didn't mean it like that. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. Can we start this over?
Yeah.
Can we try this again?
Yeah. Because again, it's bringing the awareness to it. There are going to be times where it just happens. The whoosh happens and you have no control. Like there will be those moments and it's going again, hey, can we start over?
Yep. So good. So good. Okay, so timing, why timing matters. And we kind of hit on this a little bit. We've hit on a couple, yeah, we're just a little all over the place, but it's fine. We mentioned and we talk about it all the time, our nervous system. And so when you're activated, you are literally in your survival mode. So your nervous system kicks in, you're the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So fight is you always do this. The flight is I'm done, I'm out of here. Freeze is like I literally can't talk right now, you shut down. And fawn is like, okay, fine, you're right, like let's just stop fighting. So your nervous system kicks in, and there's so many ways people call this. You're unregulated, you're overstimulated, you're, what do you call it?
I call it the adaptive child and the wise adult.
Perfect.
I think that when you're triggered, you're activated, you're in your adaptive child, which is that, that fight or flight response or whatever
Yes.
that you essentially gained and became like ingrained in you as a child. It's your adaptive child. But you no longer need that. It's now maladaptive in a way. So it's like coming into your wise adult who is regulated, the one that does know how to communicate and
yes,
speak in a positive way and whatnot. That's the wise adult. And again, Terry Real, he's the one who coined the adaptive child and the wise adult.
okay.
He's who I got it from. And he has this thing where it's like realizing, bringing your wise adult back into the conversation and taking the little child's sticky fingers off the steering wheel. They're no longer driving the car.
Take them off.
Your wise adult is now driving this car. And so it's like much safer. And because there's a reason 9-year-olds can't drive. It's not safe.
Yes.
But there's a reason 29-year-olds can drive because they're more regulated and safe.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's so good. And I think it ties into like when you understand the brain science of stuff, it is literally mind blowing.
It is.
It fits right into that because our nervous system is growing in those first couple of years of life, and it's learning what is safe and what is not safe. And that is literally created in the environment that we're in, what we see, how our parents handled conflict, how they handled conflict with us, like all of that is where our what child,
the adaptive child
comes into play.
But then when you grow up, it's no longer, it's maladaptive. Now you're not in that same environment. You're in a different environment with a different person. And it's being able to recognize that and bring your wise adult back into the conversation.
And that's how like we see that change. And like it takes a while, but we can do it. Like we just literally have to rewire our brain and our nervous system.
You have to unlearn and then relearn. It's a bit of a process. It's kind of frustrating, but it's worth it. And I also want to touch on the nervous system response. Is like getting very familiar with what yours is and your partner's.
Huge.
Because if you understand what your partner's is, you'll understand their reaction to things that you do better, and it won't be an attack. You'll be like, oh, his adaptive child is here. That's what I think anyway, is like when my husband and I have a conflict and I feel like I'm the wise adult, I'm regulated, like I'm being calm, we're having a conversation, but then he like snaps and I'm like, oh, his adaptive child is here. This is not his wise adult. And it's like, again, Terry Real, he has a thing where it's timeouts and pause. Like the pause is for me, but the timeout's for you. Like you're unregulated right now and I would like to take a timeout. I don't think we're getting anywhere. And so it's like you can even call a timeout. Even if you're good, I don't need the pause. I'm fine. But I think you might need to pause. So let's take a minute.
Timeout.
Yeah.
That is so good. Yeah. And so like when we're in this state, you had talked to us too, like your local brain is offline. So your brain is just off. We hit on this in other episodes, but your amygdala is the only thing that's on. So you're not using your whole brain. And that's when it comes to parenting, like we want to parent with our whole brain. We want to have hard conversations with our whole brain. You can't connect, you cannot empathize, you cannot solve problems when you're dysregulated. Like and neither can your partner, and neither can your kids. Like, it's just not a thing.
Yeah.
So that's why timing is everything, because you want to make sure, like we kind of hit before, like if you had a really hard day or a lot's going on, you're already feeling overstimulated, it's
Mm-hmm.
probably not the best time to come in and come with this hard conflict or this conversation
Yeah.
that happened.
Yeah, because you're already kind of activated. We
Mm-hmm.
don't need to further that.
Absolutely. So, just like voicing, like, hey, there's something I'd like to talk to you about. Would there be a good time for you that we could sit down and talk about it?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes my husband's like, good or bad. I'm like, oh, it could be both. Like, it just depends,
Yeah.
like it kind of
Yeah.
depends on what's going on. But
Mm-hmm.
it gives you both time to get into a good regulated state, and where the conversation can be very connective instead of conflict
Mm-hmm.
and hard.
Mm-hmm.
I think too, like if like my husband works a lot, so a lot of our conversations are over text, and so if it's something that I'm like, hey, I want to talk to you about this, and then he's like, it gives him anxiety, which I get, because it would make me anxious too. But like, what are
Right.
you gonna talk about? So kind of being like, yeah, this happened, and I'm like kind of hurt by it, but then that gives him time to think about it
Yeah.
and process it, and vice versa. So then we have the time to come sit down. We are like, yeah, this
Yeah.
is where we're
Yeah.
at, and it's not like sideballing him off the side.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to circle back on one thing though, is like saying, hey, you know, I have something I want to talk about tonight. That used to bring me anxiety and my husband
Yeah.
anxiety, but now it's like when I'm like, hey, there's something tough. You know, again, my son is 3. He's bouncing off the walls 24/7. There's
Yeah.
no way. And he's like taking things in. Like he's like
Mm-hmm.
hearing us and
Yeah.
repeats us. So it's like there are certain things I'm just not going to talk about in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, hey, you know, I want to talk about this, but we need to wait till he goes to bed. Well, then it's like my husband's like, oh my God, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
That's where kind of what we talked about earlier, where that like self trust, safety with yourself of being like, you know, I'm kind of nervous for this conversation. I have some anxiety for what this conversation may be about or what it may entail, but we're implementing healthy conversation and healthy conflict. So I
Mm-hmm.
know that like it's going to be okay. It's not
Yeah.
going to be a knockout, drag out fight. You know, I don't
Mm-hmm.
have, that's not what I'm looking forward to. You know, that's not what I
Right.
have. That's not what's going to be going on
Yeah.
after we put the kid down for bed. Like, I don't have to expect to walk into a brawl, you know?
That's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
And
think
that if something did escalate, I can handle it.
right.
I'll be okay. And I'm going to show up as best I can.
yeah,
No matter how they show up, I can't control how you show up, but I can
sure.
control how I show up. And I'm
Yeah.
going to show up as best as I can. And I'm nervous for it, but it's going to be
It's
okay.
gonna be okay. Yeah, that brings up two things that like made me think of. But one is like really having that safety eventually too, of knowing like we can get through this, and
Mhm.
knowing like our relationship isn't gonna be on the line, or like
Mhm.
all these things that we talked about prior. Like when you're really mindful of it and you work on it, like having this healthy conversation is a lot less scary and doesn't have as much anxiety when you know like we
Mhm.
have the tools to do this really
Yeah.
well. But then on top of that, that also reminds me of um I think this goes with anything, especially like for me personally, has been a lot with in-laws, but how we communicate, even if the conversation, like we did our best that we absolutely could to have
Mhm.
a healthy non-violent conversation, and at the end of the day, like it did not come out the way we want it to be. There's still so much peace that I have had of like, I'm really proud of how I communicated and handled
Mhm.
myself, and I
Mhm.
was very respectful. Like I was able to voice my needs and do it this in such a healthy way that even at the end of the day, it's like, well, that was not the outcome that I hoped for. There's
Mhm.
still like, I did that. Like I handled that well, and I'm
Right.
proud of myself.
Yeah. And that's how you build that self trust and that self sense of safety or
Mm-hmm.
safety within yourself or whatever.
Yeah.
Jeez, I just lost my voice there for a second. But yeah, no, that's how you build that. And that's really, I think, really imperative is yes, you need to have trust with your partner and safety in your partner, but you have to have it with yourself too. Because at the end of the day, it's you
Yep.
that really that you can control. It's
Mhm.
you that you have to worry about showing up in a certain way. And so having that trust and that safety with yourself is so
So big.
important.
Oh, such good stuff. So the bottom line, the state of your nervous system is the state of your conversation. So take a deep breath, check your body, and don't just choose the right words, choose the right time.
Yes.
So a question for you, Morgan. When you do work with people's internal adaptive child and the wise adult, can you kind of explain? Well, I guess we already talked about like what that is a little bit, but like how do you kind of help guide people in that, and like understanding where they're at mentally?
Yeah. Yeah. So a big thing with understanding your own adaptive child and who your partners might be is just kind of going back in time and being like, okay, what is the when I'm feeling flooded and I am, either screaming or I'm being avoidant, what am I thinking about? Who do I feel like I'm really fighting with? Am I really fighting
Mm.
with my husband, or am I back in my bedroom? I'm 13. I'm really fighting with my mom, So
Yeah.
it's like being like, okay, who is in my brain creating these words? Is it me as a 9-year-old? Is it me as a 13-year-old, 17-year-old?
Mm-hmm.
I have done a lot of work with my inner child. I have two that I have identified. One is my 9-year-old self, and one is my 17-year-old self.
Mm.
My 9-year-old self is the one that like shuts down and is like not here. She's quiet. She's more like, I'm going to run. I'm going to go hide in my room.
Yeah.
Whereas my 17-year-old self is capital B. I'm riled up.
Yeah.
I'm angry. You just messed with the wrong person, my
Yeah.
friend.
And,
Like, that's my
hear me.
17-year-old. So it's like understanding, okay, I think I'm coming from this like heated, I'm absolutely pissed right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's my 17-year-old adaptive child. Okay, she does not need to be here right now. She's not helping my situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally talk to myself. I literally go, okay, 27-year-old Morgan is here. 17-year-old Morgan, 9-year-old Morgan does not need to be here right now.
Yeah.
Take your sticky hands off the steering wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Let me drive this car, okay?
Yeah.
Because I will be able to lead this car not off a cliff
Yeah.
the way 9-year-old and 17-year-old Morgan would.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of having a little bit of an understanding for your partner as well too, because I also think again, Terry Real, love this guy.
Mm.
I get so much information from him, and my husband and I have done so much work together with Terry Real's stuff. And one of his things is CNI, like the letter C, letter N, letter I. It's the core negative image. And it's like when you're fighting with your partner, who you're fighting with is this like crazy caricature in your brain, not the person who's actually sitting with you. Now, I know that's probably a little confusing, and it might be a whole episode on its own to explain it, but that's where I go when I'm in my conflict state and I'm like trying to have a conversation with my husband is like, okay, where am I and where is he? Who am I seeing? Who am I speaking from? Am I speaking from 27-year-old Morgan, 17-year-old Morgan, whatever?
Yeah.
But then also, who am I speaking to? Am I speaking to my actual husband that's sitting in front of me, or am I speaking to this over-exaggerated caricature in my brain? That always never, that person that never does this, the person who's always doing this, this overinflated, big head, crazy caricature that you see in those drawings. That's why I'm fighting with my brain sometimes. And so it's going, okay, that's not who's here. Wash that out of my brain.
Yeah.
This is who is here with me. Is this person here sitting with me? He's not this, you always this, you never that. That's not who he is right now. This is
right. Calm
him,
down, take
present
that
person.
pause.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And that's all the work that you can do in the pause. It's like
100%.
I feel the whoosh. Okay, I'm gonna go take my pause. I'm gonna go lay in my bed, take some deep breaths, and try to ask myself, have curiosity with yourself. Try to understand yourself
100%.
just as much as you
That's
want to have
huge.
curiosity and understanding with your partner. I'm very big on the self work that comes with it, because I can learn about my husband's adaptive child and his nervous system response. I can learn that all day long, but I can do nothing about it. 100%. I can't do anything about it. I can only do what I can with myself.
Yes.
And so it's like doing that self work, that self reflection, bringing awareness to it, and being like, okay, I'm coming from my 17-year-old self. 17-year-old Morgan, go take a nap, because 27-year-old Morgan is here. I'll handle it. You're a good girl. Like, go take a nap. It's fine. And then just knowing that, like, I'm not fighting again with the big headed, over exaggerative caricature. I'm fighting with my husband. He's someone I love.
Right.
He may have done something that hurt me or upset me, but I still, at the end of the day, I love him. So I'm going to speak to him like I love him.
Oh, yeah.
Just kind of coming from that point of view, I think it's just so helpful, and just having an understanding of what's going on internally for you and for your partner.
A game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah. That made me literally last night. I had this experience where we were playing a game and my husband was like reading the card wrong, but I was so sure that he was reading it wrong, and he was so sure that I was reading it wrong. And we were playing Sorry, if you're familiar with that game at all, but it was like, so it was the actual Sorry card. And so it was like, take one of yours and move it with an opponent and like put them back to start, or move forward 4. It was like, then do this or move forward 4. So he was reading it as swap and then move forward for. And I was like, no, you either swap or move forward for. So this got heat. Like, I got so triggered, and whatever, we ended up figuring out. The game went on, tension was there, but it's fine. And at the end of the day, I was sitting here reflecting on it. I'm like, why was I so triggered in it? Well, I came to my realization of like, because I don't know 100% what year-old me that was, but like I was so triggered because I knew I was valid in what I was saying, but I wasn't being heard. And it came back from that need of needing to be heard, and not so much like the need to be right, but I'm like, you're not hearing me, like you're not understanding. And so like that really brought up past stuff of when I felt so unheard and so unseen.
It's giving teenager. I will
Yes.
say. I
Oh,
was gonna say,
100%.
I
It's
have
like
a feeling
probably
at
17 or 18-year-old me. 100%.
well, I was gonna say, I feel like at some point in your teenage years, you were probably like crying out for help, or like
Yeah.
someone
Just like,
notice me, listen to me, whatever.
100%.
And no one was. No
Yeah.
one. Everyone was just like looking over or beyond.
Or
Or
like, you're not
something.
right, or it doesn't matter. And it was like so
Yeah.
infuriating. And like
Yeah.
that built so fast in me. And I was like,
That's
this
when
is
you take
literally a
their sticky
game.
hands off the steering wheel.
Yeah. And I was like, this literally is a game. It's not that big of a deal. But
Mhm.
it was just like so triggering. And when I paused and then like reflected on it, I'm like, this makes sense. Like my nervous system was fully activated, and it all stemmed from the need of like not to be right, just the need to be heard and like to be seen. And I did not. I felt so dismissed. And like, why are you like arguing with me on, like, it was just really crazy, and it sparked my brain because it's real and it happens all the time. And when you start to understand this stuff in the brain science, then these incidents happen and you're able to like think back and you're like, wait, this makes sense now. And it really wasn't about the card game. It goes so much deeper.
It's not about the card game.
No, it wasn't about the game.
Oh my god.
Cool. Okay, guys, so that's been a lot. Take a deep breath. It's probably kind of heavy. We're gonna do just a little bit more, and we're wrapping up the episode. I promise. We're here at the end. But let's talk about what we do after we've just had a hard talk. So, hopefully, as you learn this and you're able to implement it, these hard talks go a lot better. But whether they go really good or maybe they don't go as good as you wanted, the repairing is crucial. And we talk about this all the time with the parent stuff. Like, you mess up, you go in and you repair with your kid. It's exactly the same with your spouse. So when conversations get heated, they get messy, or they didn't go the way that you had hoped, like, repair is that bridge back to connection. And so it's not about pretending it didn't happen. It's about honoring the rupture and choosing to reconnect anyway. So it matters because it says to your partner, like, even when we mess up, I still choose us. It builds that emotional safety and that trust, and it stops the same argument from festering and resurfacing later. So again, kind of like we hit on earlier, like when you have a hard conversation, like, come to a conclusion, come to a closure to repair, and then like let it be in the past. Like, don't let it come up again. So own your part. So what does this look like? Own your part. Like, hey, I was harsh with my tone. That's on me. I shut down, and that probably made you feel really alone.
Yeah, I really wanted to add in an extra spot of curiosity because, like you said, like, I shut down, that probably made you feel alone. Again, with that, like, we can't like say like what they might be feeling. So it's having that curiosity to try to understand, okay, when I shut down, how might that be affecting them? How might they be feeling if I'm shutting down? So it's kind of saying like, I shut down and I'm curious how that made you feel,
Yeah, that's so good. For us too, like, as we navigated this, my husband really struggled to put his emotions into words, and so oftentimes just looked like an empathy guess, like, hey, I'm guessing like this made you feel this way, and then that gave him a chance to be like, no, or like, yeah, actually that's how it is. So he really wasn't able to be like, if I asked him, how do you feel, be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean you don't know how you feel?
Yeah. That's me.
Yeah.
I have been so emotionally blocked for so long because growing up in my household, feelings were not okay. Like, it was
that's how my
like
husband
you
was.
like can't have feelings, like, and you can't have emotions, especially like bad ones or like really extreme ones. You have to be very placated level, and it's like, that's just not real. Like,
No.
It's just not real. And so I had to do a lot of emotional work. I literally printed off, like the olden days, printed off of a printer instead of having it on my phone. I had a physical copy in my home on my fridge of like an emotions wheel that had like the core emotions of anger, happiness, sadness,
no, that's
love,
so good.
and then branching off of like, okay, what comes with anger? There's frustration, there's irritation, and then what branches off of sadness? There's despair, there's you know, all these other, there's so many emotions.
Yes.
And having like an emotional wheel helped me go through, okay, I'm angry. I'm more than angry. Okay,
Mhm.
what's the next part of the wheel? Okay, I'm frustrated. What's the next part of the wheel? Okay, I'm like irate, like whatever it
Yeah,
might
no, that's
be.
so
So I think
good.
that that's also a helpful tool if someone is struggling with naming emotions,
Mhm.
understanding what emotions are for them is just like the emotional wheel.
Yeah,
You
no,
can
that's
find it on
great.
Google.
Yeah, because a lot of times, like, I use the words as like your unmet need, but
Mhm.
like oftentimes you're like, okay, I'm angry, but like why? Like it's deeper than that, and then
Mhm.
even pinpointing like for me, oftentimes hurt actually turns into that anger, but I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
not actually angry, I'm actually really hurt. But
Yeah.
it takes a matter of breaking it down and like
Mhm.
looking into it deeper
Yeah.
and having the words. So having a
Yeah.
feelings chart or anything
Yeah.
like that is super helpful.
Yes. Yes.
That's awesome. Yeah, so repair isn't about blame, it's all about responsibility, and we want to validate their experience. So like I hear that what I said made you feel unheard, and I get why that hurts. I didn't mean to make you feel dismissed. I see now that I did that.
Mhm.
Even if you didn't intend to do something, the impact matters more than intent and conflict. So,
Mhm.
even if we obviously are like that, I didn't mean to do that. That doesn't mean that their experience wasn't real
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah. And that's another thing with like perception. Everyone perceives everything completely different. No
Mhm.
two people perceive the same thing the exact same way. So it's
Right.
like I may have came across this way, but to them I did not. And just being
Mhm.
like, you know what? That's not how I meant it, but I can see and I understand that it was that way for you.
Yeah. So good. Um, yeah, so then like you can always clarify and reconnect. So you can say things like, "Can I share what I was trying to say?" or "Can we come back to this when we both feel a little bit more connected or more regulated?"
Mhm.
And things like, "I want to understand you better." So
Mhm.
this helps open the door to move forward and not just moving on.
Yes.
Okay, so here's some more tools you can put in your toolbox. You can use repair phrases like, "I'm sorry for how that came out. You matter to me more than being right." Imagine if you're in the middle of like a heated argument with your husband and then he just says like, "I'm sorry for how that came out. You matter more to me than being right."
Yeah, that would change a lot. I think
Wouldn't it?
like especially when I think back to like previous years when we would have moments. We didn't like fight so much as we were avoidant, but like if he just like came into my room and was just like, "You know what? You matter to me more
Yeah.
than being right or whatever it is. Like let's talk." I would have been like,
Mm,
"Oh my god, what is
right.
this?"
Talk about like a whole shift of the
Yeah.
tone,
Yeah.
and it
Mhm.
really like will take you off defense
Yeah,
mode.
it takes you out of that you versus me. Yeah.
Yeah, huge. But also, I just want to even mention the emotional maturity
Mhm.
it takes to be able to pause and to say
Mhm.
something like that
Mhm.
when you're also feeling heated.
Mhm.
It's huge. Or so
Mhm.
another you could say like, "Hey, let's reset. I love you," or like, "I want us to feel like teammates again."
Yeah. Again, like it's even saying like remember it's us versus this. It's not you
Yes.
versus me. Like
Yes.
I'm not here to win. I'm not here to help you. I don't want you to lose. Like I'm not trying to win. Just like things like that. Yeah.
Okay, and then we can also offer some comfort or affection, like if they're open to it. I think love languages go into this a ton, but we won't jump
Mhm.
into that too much. But
Mhm.
like a hug, a hand on their shoulder, maybe they need words of affirmation, like different ways that your partner may feel loved. It's a
Mhm.
way that you can then
Yeah.
implement here, or even
Yeah.
just saying, "Hey, I'm here. We're okay."
Mhm. Yeah.
Just hearing that.
Mm.
Huge. So the physical repair can help stew the nervous system still in defense mode, which I feel like we kind of hit on that, but only if the other person is open to it. But again,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
even just saying like, "Yo, it's us as a team," like that automatically would calm me down so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Um,
It would lower the defenses.
yes. So repair isn't about being perfect; it's about being willing. So conflict is normal, and repair is essential.
Mhm.
So, wow, that was a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that was.
Morgan, I'm curious, like, what was an aha moment that you've had around conflict that changed your marriage?
That's a great question. I feel like I could have prepared for that. I totally wasn't even thinking. I feel like I got so much of it. I feel like I learned so much on this journey, and it is
Mm,
like completely 180 flipped, just how me and my husband both show up. But I truly think that the biggest work was that adaptive child, wise adult, and just
yeah.
like understanding where am I coming from when I'm in this state, when I'm in my
Mm,
nervous system response and I feel
mhm.
that whoosh, what is that?
Yeah.
Like, and so curiosity might be my answer there too. I love
It's so
curiosity.
good. It's a game
There,
changer.
yes, there's nothing I love more than like just asking questions. And for myself, like, I literally will like lay in bed at night, and if I'm having like a bad night and I can't sleep, I'm like, what is really on my mind? I start having curiosity instead of being
Yeah.
like, go to sleep. You're tired. Your son wakes up so early. It's 1 a.m. Go to sleep. Go
Yeah.
to sleep. Because that's just like so harsh on yourself. It's such like kind of negative self-talk in a way
Mhm.
where it's just like, okay, why am I awake
Yeah.
thinking about this
What's
right
going on?
now? And just
Yeah.
having that curiosity. So I would say curiosity was a big aha for me, just having more of it and being like, oh, who would have thought that curiosity was such a game changer and such a big player in this fact? But then also like knowing my adaptive child and my wise adult and stuff, that was huge. That was huge. Was just like understanding like internally when I have that whoosh, where am I going?
Yeah.
Who's coming in? 9-year-old, not good.
Okay. I love that. Yeah, you don't have to fight perfectly. You just have to fight for each other, and that starts with how you talk with things. Talk when things are hard. I definitely love all of that, and like my biggest takeaway is just how powerful repair can be. Like even if the conversation didn't go perfectly.
Yeah. Because you have to
So,
repair to get back into harmony. That's like
yes.
harmony, disharmony, repair.
Yep.
And if there's no repair, there's no getting back into harmony.
Yep.
There's just,
And
you won't get
it's
there.
so
It'll be like a
good.
false sense of harmony almost.
Yeah. It's
Because
just,
that unmet whatever will still be there.
it'll still be there. Yep. So important when it comes to your marriage, and very, very important when it comes to your kids. I highly encourage you, which I'm sure you will, but keep that curiosity with your little one
Oh yeah.
as he's growing
Absolutely.
up. Because it's a game changer when it comes to our parenting. So and I hope you guys had an aha moment throughout this episode too. If something in this episode hit home, I would love to hear from you. So feel free to DM me on any social. You can leave a review. You can comment here on Spotify or on YouTube. Morgan, do you want to share with us how people can connect with you on your socials?
Yeah. So my Instagram is Morgan Lemon Coaching.
Okay.
Lemon like the fruit.
Perfect.
Yep, Morgan Lemon Coaching. You can find me on Instagram there. And then I don't really have like a website. I don't have a podcast like this or anything. I post on my stories a lot, but you can always DM me on Instagram, Morgan Lemon Coaching. DM me anytime. I'd love to chat.
Perfect.
I'm always down for a good conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really
awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yes.
It was awesome.
Thank you.
We'll
for
probably
having
have you
me.
back in the future, and we'll
Please.
dive more into
more relationship things, because
Yeah.
that is definitely my expertise, is in
Yeah.
the relationship aspect.
Oh
the
yeah,
marriage.
we talked about like infidelity and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe I can come back for another episode.
Yeah,
for
that'd be
that.
super awesome.
Yeah,
Cool. All
I'd
right,
love that.
so
I'd love to.
next week, you guys know that we're gonna keep this marriage series going, but we're gonna be talking about extended family and the boundaries, so you will not want to miss this one. And so until then, remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to show up, and as always, aim straight, shoot straight.